Hey, what's up, Street Scores family? This your boy Rico, bringing you another film session. This time it's 4th round pick Troy Apke, safety out of Penn State. This was another struggle to put some film together for. Had to use highlights and some Marcus Allen film, his Penn State teammate who also played safety. But we got it done, and we're here. There's no stopping this movement. Let's get it.
They're going to be successful no matter what situation you place them in.
Here's Troy Apke.
Oh, man, he can run.
Why are you surprised, Dan?
Oh, you know why I'm surprised? I can't say it on TV, but he can run.
He was a track guy.
Right.
He was a track guy.
But you're saying it with
you don't see that much.
You're saying it in tone.
Let's call it what it is. I like that,
He
man.
just ran 4.35.
Hey, man, let me go hug him.
At 215 pounds.
I'm going to hug him. Hey, man, that was good, man. You can run.
Excuse me, 200 pounds.
I try. Oh, you, man, good job.
Now bear with me throughout this film session and ignore the little pop-up symbols that indicate where a player is, because we're using Marcus Allen film, not Troy Apke. So you have to ignore the indicators. As you can see, this is Marcus Allen film. But with that great speed and burst and acceleration, we can use Troy, who is lined up right here as a field goal block, punt block specialist. His speed and burst allow him to get to the kicker before he can successfully get the kickoff. And this can be a game changer. Even if he doesn't actually get the block, just the presence of his speed will rush kickers into their kicks before they're ready, which will lead to a higher rate of inaccurate kicks against the Redskins. So I really hope the Redskins see this footage and utilize Troy's athleticism to allow him to be our deadly secret weapon on field goal block formation and punt block formation. Troy is located right here. Throughout the play, he disappears from the camera. Then he comes back in view right here. And as you see, he's stepping up. And he makes a good wrap-up tackle. He tackles the ball carrier with his full body instead of tackling just half of him or a piece of him. Nice, firm, squared up, straight up tackle. What I really like is that he got his head up enough to not get a 15-yard penalty at the NFL level. Especially with the way they have these new helmet-to-helmet rules coming in 2018. The league is going to look completely different. And I'm glad he was able to get his head up just a little bit. Just enough to avoid the head-to-head collision. Now this is a good tackle, and he's not very good at doing this consistently. But I just wanted to show y'all that there is some film out there of him making these sorts of tackles. It can be done. He just needs to polish it up and do it more consistently. Troy, who is located right here, can be a good open field tackler at times. This tackle right here is not easy to make at all. There is no help anywhere nearby at all. The closest help is within 5 yards. And even though it's not the best looking tackle, it gets the job done. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. Nice wrap up until the help comes. Bring them down. And again, with all of this space, this is not an easy tackle to make at all, especially on an Ohio State receiver. Troy is located right here. And this is not how I would draw it up. I personally want him to take on this block, shed it, blow it up, do something. But Troy Apke has enough speed to where he can just run around the blocker sometimes and go and make a play. He didn't technically make the tackle, but at least he was involved. When he has the time and space to do so, he's able to run around blockers. This is not the healthiest technique, but in this case, it gets the job done. Like I said before, I want him to engage in this block, disengage, or run through it, but at least this resulted in a positive play. It doesn't always work, but as with other parts of this film session, I wanted to show y'all some film that there is proof that sometimes his weird tactics do work. Troy is located right here, and I want to show y'all this clip because Troy is the fastest person on the field for a solid 3 seconds. Look at him go get that chase down tackle. The way Troy locked on to close the space in between him and the receiver just looks so smooth and beautiful. This is another facet of his game that comes with the speed that he has. For a solid 3 seconds, he was the fastest person on the field, which allowed him to make this tackle. Even when he's out of position, his speed sometimes bails him out. Troy is located right here, and I want y'all to get a good look at this burst right here. Woo! With the pass breakup. Look at the burst. As soon as he recognizes the ball is going to the receiver in front of his zone responsibility, he takes off with his elite level burst and breaks up the pass on 3rd and 2. That easily would have been for a first down. It's a clutch 3rd down play. Way to get your hand in there and force him to drop the ball too. This is a slightly better angle of him ripping the ball out, breaking up the pass. Still a bad angle, but it's better than the last one. But we're here for this burst and speed. As soon as he recognizes that the ball is going to this receiver, he takes off and is able to get there to break up the pass. These are zone coverage traits that we can build on. He's not the best zone coverage man because he's slow to recognize plays at times, but this type of speed is rare and it can be used for something. Troy is located right here, and I'm showing y'all this clip to show y'all that he is a willing run stopper. He is the free safety, but he is not afraid to come down to the box and get his hands dirty in the run game and lay some hits on some people. His tackling may be inconsistent, but at least he is willing to go down there and attempt to make a tackle, even if it's unsuccessful. And same goes for the very next play here. Troy is located right here, and I love his willingness to fight through the crowd to go make the play. Not many people with his speed, especially free safeties, are willing to come down and get dirty like this in the trenches, in the box, to go make a run stop like this. This is a positive trait that we can build off of. Mentality and aggression is hard to teach. So I'm glad he has this building block to build off of to make a true safety in the NFL. He is not afraid to get down there and make a play. And here's my second and final example of his willingness to step up into the box and help in run support. Troy is located right here, and I really like the fact that he is willing to step up and make a play and make a stop for as minimum of a gain as possible. Now when there's a blocker in his way, things get complicated and he struggles, but as long as he is set free, as long as he has a clear lane and doesn't have to fight through too many people or get touched by any type of blocker, then he's good. He's gonna come down there and make a play. And here's another positive play that we have to take with a grain of salt. Troy, who is located right here, is gonna go and break up this pass. Successful pass breakup, but I much more prefer for him to get his head turned around here, making it much easier to avoid the pass interference call. But at least he is able to read the wide receiver's movements and recognize that the ball is close. As soon as he starts putting his hands up, Troy realizes that he needs to put his hands up, which he does, and it allows him to make a good play on the ball. This isn't as good as getting your head turned around and making a real play on the ball, which could have possibly resulted in an interception. But it's a nice trait to have, to be able to read and react to wide receivers' movements that quickly. This won't always work out in the NFL, but it's a decent trait to have. Now it's that time of the film session, y'all. Y'all already know what I say. It's not a real film session if I don't point out the negatives. And here is one big flaring negative for Troy, who is located right here. He is simply an inconsistent tackler. You see the positive, as I pointed out earlier, that he is a willing run supporter, willing to get in the box and get dirty, but there's a lot of plays like this where he just gets ran over or just misses the tackle completely. This inconsistent tackling example is the result of him not keeping his head up and getting squared up against the runner. He's attacking only half of the running back. I don't know why he's attacking the left side of the running back instead of getting squared up in front of his entire body and simply tackling him in his middle with his arms, or at least driving his shoulder into him. He just ducks his head and causes a head-to-head collision. And with the way the NFL is going to be officiated next year, this is going to be a guaranteed 15-yard penalty and maybe even an ejection. But even just beyond this automatic 15-yard penalty, I don't know why he swung his body to the right, bracing for impact. Get squared up with this man and tackle him like the clip from earlier. This is not healthy at all. You gotta do better, Troy. But that's coachable. This is definitely coachable. Another example of inconsistent tackling. Troy is located right here. And I really don't even have to explain this one. I mean, you can clearly see this right here. Sad. Him and number 40 went out sad here. Hopefully there was a wet spot on the court where the mop boy at, but this more than likely would not have happened if he had attacked the running back more aggressively. Right here at this point where he begins to slow down and pedal his feet is when he starts to lose balance. If he would have just came in, got squared up, and made a strong tackle, that more than likely would not have happened. Now number 40 was slightly in the way, but that does not excuse this loss of footing. If he would have came in like a missile with his head up, and aggressively attacked this running back, he probably would have had him for a tackle. But again, this is very coachable. This is not too much to be afraid of. It's obviously concerning, yes, especially if he can't actually fix it, but this is coachable. Help that man. And my last example of Troy's inconsistent tackling, because there's a lot of examples, but I just wanted to show y'all 3 different ways he misses tackles. Troy, who's right here, over pursues ever so slightly, just barely, and pays for it dearly. I know this may not look very debilitating for a defense, but this can lead to big plays allowed. And Derwin James doesn't miss tackles like this, and that's who I have to compare him to. I have to compare Troy to the best of the best at what they do. And again, this is coachable. He just happens to not have the natural gift of being a great tackler, or at least a consistent one, because he has flashes of making great tackles. But with some coaching and some experience under his belt, I feel like this can be fixed. The flashes of great tackles he's shown shows that he can be a good tackler when dedicated to becoming a better one. There's a lot of DBs out there that just aren't good at tackling, period. Troy has shown traits and flashes, just needs to become more consistent. Troy, who is located right here, often does this weird thing where he over pursues. On this play, he over pursues by almost 5 yards on this ball carrier. Not healthy. While the ball carrier is at the 36-yard line, Troy Apke closes in front of him at the 30-yard line. There's almost a 5-yard difference right here in this pursuit. I'm assuming it's because he wanted to avoid running into this pileup right here. But he easily could have came in full speed and ran straight into this blocker and possibly knocked the blocker back into the ball carrier and forcing them both out of bounds. Luckily for Troy, the ball carrier accidentally tiptoed out of bounds, and there was some pursuit help from behind to not allow this play to get out of hand. But without him right here, and the ball carrier accidentally stepping out of bounds, this could have turned into a touchdown. I wish I had the all-22 for this, but Troy, I want you to come from where you were up here to a straight line to the ball carrier. You could have fit right in between here, or you could have blown up this blocker, who could have also blown up the running back, and then everybody could have gone out of bounds, and that would have counted as a tackle. Now, this is one of the weirdest over pursuits I've ever seen on film, just ever, regardless of any player. Troy is located right here, and please explain to me what he is doing. Ball carrier has the ball. Troy, why did you start going backwards? Troy has an easy opportunity to step up into the box like he normally does and come down and make a play. I'm just not exactly understanding where this over pursuit came from, where this decision was made. First of all, he gets his back turned to the play. Secondly, you have help, and even if you didn't have help, still come down and make this tackle. Why are you running away? Did he think this was a play action of some sort? Maybe he thought this may have been a play action and he's trying to get back in coverage, but either way it goes, there's no receiver anywhere near him. Why is he running away from the play? No matter the reasoning, this is too much space he's given up for anything, for a pass or a run. Here's example 1 of how Troy is not consistently able to beat blockers. This one is an example of how he does not have enough power to run through blockers. Troy is located right here, and as the play starts, he goes and attempts to blow up the block, fight it head on, but gets blown backwards and out of the play range, not able to make the tackle. And like I said, this is just simply a lack of power. He's coming in with a considerable amount of speed, but the blocker, the fullback, is able to get a good block on him, push him back, and knock him out of the play. Now he's having to try to make a tackle from behind. Now, I am happy to see that he is willing to come down here in the box and attempt to make these plays. A lot of DBs are not willing to go in there and do that. Take on blocks head on and fight through crowds to make a tackle. Also, he will be a free safety. He will not be a strong safety, so he will not be in these situations often in the NFL anyway. But I definitely wanted to note it and bring it to y'all attention that him running through a block is just not going to happen often. Him coming down and blowing up a block like my boy Rashaan Evans is just not going to happen. But again, it's not expected of him. But I do want to make a note of it. Now, we've seen from the last clip that Troy cannot beat blocks with power, but here's a clip showing that he also can't beat it with hand usage and aggressiveness. Troy is located right here, and he just simply allows himself to be blocked and hemmed up and taken out of the play. Some aggression and hand usage might have gotten him out of this situation, but he doesn't even attempt it. He's just content with just looking at the play like the people on the sideline. At this point, he literally might as well be one of them. He is out of the play completely. You don't even see Buddy on the screen at a certain point. He gets blocked out of the view. Troy, if you don't attack this blocker here and then get his hands off of you. But again, he's a free safety. For the Redskins, he will never be lined up this close to the line of scrimmage. He will be way further back. So at worst, he'll probably end up being blocked by receivers, and he'll have more of a chance than this. But again, like I keep saying, I need to analyze all facets of his game, and I need to make notes of everything, even if it won't be expected of him at the NFL level. Troy is located right here. I had to start the play in the middle of the action because he starts off screen. But one weird thing about Troy is his lack of lateral agility and his tight hips. Watch as he gets burnt as soon as the receiver changes directions. Look at all of that space. There's almost 3 yards of space that he got on Troy, just from one simple change of direction. There was no advanced route running. He just ran one way and ran to the other. And it's very shocking to me to see somebody with such great acceleration and speed to have such tight hips and such a lack of lateral quickness. He has plenty of recovery speed, but that's not going to save him right here. There's no time to recover right here. I mean, his hips are so tight that it almost took him an entire 2 seconds to finally get his footing right and go to the other direction. He normally has good footwork, but it took him 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 4 or 5 steps to change directions and get going. The receiver left him almost 4 yards behind. Help that man. Somebody help. Now the receiver folded and let Nas down, which saved Troy from allowing an easy touchdown. But we have to look at this and notice the potential of Troy's struggles in man coverage. These tight hips are not going to cut it in the NFL at all. That is too much separation. It is very weird for him to have that much speed, acceleration, and burst and have such tight hips. It's really weird. That's not normal. Munsnum got broke off. Burnt, boy. Help that man. Troy is located right here, and I know that things like bad zone coverage technique can be coached, but I cannot analyze film on what he potentially might become. I have to analyze what we have seen him do. I know I am probably analyzing the footprint of Troy Apke. I might be analyzing what he used to be. He may be well and improved, but I'm doing a film session and I have to analyze what he has done on film. And on film, I see things like bad zone coverage technique. How did he end up so lost right here? I'll tell you why. Even though we'll never have to worry about his speed, his mechanics and technique need a lot of refining. Why on earth did he turn his body around that way? Why did he turn his back to the play? He turned his back on his own zone coverage. This is the same game as the previous clip. So I'm assuming that he probably didn't trust his hips and he wanted to take a shortcut by turning the other way. Because it is truthfully more difficult to turn forward right here to look that way without losing your footing or any ground. But we cannot have you turning your back on your zone coverage responsibility. You have to learn to trust yourself more with your hips, and you simply have to learn not to turn your back towards the entire play. Like I said, I know it's harder to turn from this way to that way forward. He cheated and turned his back to the play, and it resulted in the receiver leaving him behind and gaining separation in his zone responsibility. The pass did not go to the receiver he was covering, but if it did, it would have easily have been a nice old game. This man has an entire window to throw this to. Fortunately for Troy, his defensive buddy has pressure on the quarterback, and the quarterback has his eyes elsewhere, so he didn't even notice how bad Troy got burnt. But this is not healthy, Troy. This has to be worked on. This turning your back to the play. But this bad technique right here is coachable, luckily for Troy. Another problem Troy has, who is located right here, is that he is oftentimes slow at recognizing plays or coverages. He's just slow at processing things, period, often more times than not. And that just comes from a lack of experience, honestly. He was originally recruited to Penn State as a wide receiver, and he didn't become a full-time starter at safety until this year, which is the film I'm showing you right now. And this is the 7th game of the season, basically only halfway through his first season as a full NFL starter. So I can't blame him for these mistakes, but I do have to point it out. This slow recognition can get you killed in the NFL. Again, this is very coachable, and this can also be improved with time and experience, which is going to be his best friend. He's just going to have to take a year or two to learn how to play the safety position better. But until then, we can't have him out there having the skins getting burnt like this, allowing big plays in the red zone. But honestly, I feel like this is fixable with coaching, time, and experience. It looks ugly now, but this can be fixed, especially with his speed. Now, right after he just gave up that big play due to his slow recognition of his coverage assignment and receiver routes, Troy, who is located right here, was slow at diagnosing which run lane would open up for the running back and which he should attack to prevent the touchdown. I mean, the very next play, you can see the running lane opening, and at this point, I expect Troy Apke to be able to recognize where the run lane is and go and clog it up and make the touchdown saving tackle. But he hesitates a little while longer, and then he is late and tries to make an arm tackle, and it is clearly unsuccessful. 7 points for the opponent. Troy could have easily prevented this touchdown if he was able to diagnose which running lane the running back will run to quickly. And it's not very hidden. You can see exactly where the blocking schemes are blocking for this running lane to open. I'm surprised Troy was not able to diagnose this quicker. The NFL is a game of inches and split seconds, and I know Troy hasn't been playing safety very long and doesn't have much experience, but wins and losses won't have fine print that say Troy has little experience at safety. All it's gonna say is L or loss. But at the end of the day, Troy, who will be a free safety for the Redskins, will not be in for goal line situations like this. Even Monte Nicholson, who the Redskins love, is rarely in for situations like this. So I don't expect Troy to be in the Redskins formation for goal line situations. But this slow recognition and inability to diagnose plays and run lanes and coverages apply to many facets of the game, not just goal line. So this has to be worked on either way. Now I'm just showing this play because Troy, who is located right here, just oftentimes end up in weird, unfortunate situations that aren't really his fault, but they're hilarious. Watching this film was funny because he ends up in situations that are just not predictable. The defensive coordinator called up a nice safety blitz. There's nobody blocking him. He has a free run at the quarterback. But what happens? His own player becomes a speed bump on Troy's path to the quarterback. He has to dodge that, jump over it, and within that time, he is out of the play and does not get the sack that he was supposed to get. This is highly unfortunate. Nobody expects their own teammates to foil their blitzes, especially by turning into a speed bump when Troy was running full speed to the quarterback. Troy thought he was about to have a clean hit on the quarterback, which he should have and would have, but then this very rare situation approaches him, and like a normal human being that isn't Spider-Man, he isn't ready to overcome it. And I'm not faulting him at all for this, but I just felt like it was funny and I had to include it into the film session because things like this happen to him more often than y'all probably think. There really isn't a drill that you can run in practice to prepare you for random stuff like that. Now don't go and bring this misfortune to the Redskins. We already had the injury bug dancing on us all last year, hopping from player to player. We can't afford any of this. We just can't. The Redskins just cannot handle this level of misfortune right now. And what's crazy about the whole Troy Apke situation is that he almost looked like a totally different safety in the NFLPA game that he won MVP in. He corrected a lot of the mistakes he was making throughout the regular season, most notably his tackling. He looked like a sure tackler in the NFLPA game, but not even just that. He's that number 38 guy that's out here just laying hits on people. You see this? But not even just tackling and hitting. He was out there forcing fumbles on punt coverage. Look at this. Look at that nice little tackle and forced fumble. Be proud of yourself. I mean, look at these tackles. This is exactly how I want him to tackle all the time for the Redskins. Square in front of him. I want you to get your head up better than this. but he's square in front of him, he's tackling the entire body, and he's getting his hands wrapped up around him. Nice tackle. But he's also out here showing his range. Look at him go from the middle of the field to making the interception where the numbers are. Look just like Monte Nicholson of last year on that play. I find this very interesting because this may be similar to the Daron Payne's film. Like how Daron Payne looks completely different in the championship game from how he looks during all of his regular season game. Is the most recent game from both of them the real versions of them? That's very interesting to think about. Because the Daron Payne is always like his championship game, and if Troy Apke is always like his NFL PA game, they can be two very deadly draft picks. And I'm mostly talking about Troy Apke, because I'm expecting big things from Daron Payne. And we'll get into that in his film session that I'm getting to. Now for the summary of his positives and negatives and his projection. Starting with positives. Speed and acceleration are elite level. Elite level burst. This gives him great recovery speed. It bails him out of some situations when his lack of safety position expertise shows. He is able to recover from being out of position at times and make a play. He also makes some good tackles at times. He shows flashes of good tackling technique, tackling the entirety of the ball carrier and not just part of the ball carrier. He's also a willing run stopper. He may not always make the play or complete the tackle, but he is willing to get his hands dirty and come down to make a tackle in the run game. Now his negatives. Troy has tight hips for somebody that is fast and as explosive as he is. It's really weird. He has too much burst for his hips to be as tight as they are, and for his lateral quickness to be as bad as it is. It's weird. Also, his inconsistent tackling is probably his greatest weakness, but at least it may be curable. He also has a bad habit of taking bad pursuit angles on receivers and runners, which results in unnecessary yards being gained. He is a slow play and coverage recognizer, which gets him into some troubling situations. He has some great recovery speed, but that doesn't always bail him out enough for it to really matter. There are too many plays where his slow recognition gets him hurt, which results in big plays and even touchdowns that could have been prevented if he had faster read and react speed. Troy also has a tendency to get caught up in traffic when playing against the run, which allows for running plays to go for more yardage than they should have if he had just attacked more aggressively and blew up blockers, or at least shed the blockers, which leads to my last negative. His inability to blow up and shed blocks allows him to be blocked way too much, which takes him out of plays that he had a chance to make an impact on. But now my projection. He is athletic with an assortment of problems that can be fixed with coaching time and experience. There's no guarantee that he will be able to fix all of his problems, but one thing we do know is that when he's on the field, he's one of the fastest players on it, period. And more than likely, he has the best acceleration too. And those are great building blocks to begin building an NFL safety with. Those traits, that speed and acceleration, are not teachable. I can see him making the 53-man roster with his athleticism and special teams coverage experience and potential. Especially with Niles Paul gone and Monte Nicholson and Deshazier Everett more than likely gaining larger roles on defense, so they'll play less special teams. But stepping on the field as a safety in 2018 seems very unlikely. Even if Troy Apke isn't able to process as soon as we hope he can, the Redskins will keep him on the 53-man roster, and for two reasons. Reason one, because they used a 4th round pick on him. Politics, people. Even if he's not very good yet, the politics of having to stand by picking somebody that high will probably influence him making the team. Reason two, Troy isn't competing against a lot of safeties. Everett isn't very good. Fish Smithson, Kenny Latler, and Quinn Blanding are unproven. And then there's the 2 starters. So Troy is almost guaranteed to be one of the 4 safeties kept on roster, especially since he was drafted way higher than any of the safeties that aren't starters. All of the other 4 safeties were undrafted actually. And plus, Troy is more athletic than the rest of them and only needs some time and coaching to become a true asset to this team. I still stand by the fact that I don't like us spending a 4th round pick on him, with him probably needing an entire year or 2 before we can even put him on the field on defense. But he has some untapped potential that can prove to be very deadly if he is able to actually learn how to play the safety position. Considering he only played safety full time as of last year and was recruited to Penn State as a receiver. His negatives are nothing less than to be expected of a one-year starter at a position he only began to play once he went to college. And that's the end of this film session. Thanks for the view. Thanks for the support. I'm actually surprised that this film session ended up being this long. I didn't expect to have so much to analyze about Troy Apke, even though I've previously watched this film plenty of times, but once I actually sat down and started getting my notes together, there was a lot more to talk about than I thought there would be. But I had fun doing it. He is a fun guy to watch. Like I mentioned, with his misfortunes and random stuff that happens to him. But then also his athleticism makes him a very interesting player to review film on. I'm trying to get these film sessions out at least once a week so I can hurry up and catch up before the preseason starts. Because I definitely want to move on to some of the undrafted free agents or somebody like Adonis Alexander who we just got in a supplemental draft. I'm very busy, but I'm definitely trying to get these done. If doing these film sessions was giving me an honest income, I'd be doing these film sessions all day, every day. I would love to. This is fun. But y'all already know how this goes. Make sure y'all Dolomite fake punch that like button. Favorite if you love the video, subscribe. If you love the channel, I'll subscribe back. I'm gonna be bringing y'all a Jerron Christian film session soon. Make sure y'all stay tuned. Catch y'all later. I'm out.